Okay, picture this. We're in the Arabian desert, roughly 1400 years ago. The blazing sun is just beating down on the shifting sands, and it's setting the stage for an absolute epic confrontation, one that would quite literally alter the course of history. You see, a powerful revolution was quietly on the horizon, but right before it broke, a mighty king, who was completely drunk on absolute power, was about to be brought down to dust. Literally.
It really makes you wonder, right? I mean, when exactly, and more importantly, how, did a terrifyingly powerful king's army, fully equipped and seemingly invincible, turn into a literal pile of dust in a matter of moments? Well, welcome to our latest explainer. Today, we're unpacking one of history's most jaw-dropping events. We're going to break down the facts, the legendary confrontation, and the miraculous climax that left an entire region in absolute awe.
All right, let's just dive right into it with Chapter 1, The Approaching Storm. To truly grasp the sheer gravity of what went down in the courtyard of the Kaaba, we first have to look at the massive political and military storm that was brewing down in the south. And that brings us to Chapter 2, Abraha's Arrogance. Because this wasn't just some random skirmish, this was a highly calculated march meant to completely destroy the spiritual center of the Arabian Peninsula. And it was driven entirely by one man's massive ego. The central antagonist here is a man named Abraha. He was the Abyssinian ruler of Yemen, a guy with immense pride, staggering wealth, and these incredibly grand ambitions to just control the entire religious landscape of the Arab world. And honestly, his sheer arrogance is exactly what sets this whole unbelievable chain of events into motion. So the threat escalated pretty fast. First, Abraha builds this magnificent, glittering church in Sana'a, Yemen. His master plan was to basically divert the Arab tribes away from the Kaaba in Mecca and get them to perform their pilgrimage at his new colossal monument instead. But the Arabs completely rejected it. Their love for the Kaaba was just too deeply rooted. Well, furious at this rejection, Abraha's frustration completely boils over. He vows to march on Mecca and tear the Kaaba down to its very foundations. And to do it, he mobilizes a massive, monstrous army, complete with heavily armed warriors and a terrifying secret weapon of the ancient world, a gigantic war elephant. Moving into Chapter 3, a historic dialogue. As this unstoppable military machine gets closer and closer to Mecca, the tension is absolutely palpable. Abraha's soldiers start raiding the outskirts of the city, seizing livestock from the locals, which forces a very intense face-to-face encounter. The stark reality of this situation was honestly terrifying. Just look at the clash of power here. On one side, you have Abraha commanding this massive military force, seasoned warriors, and an elephant that literally struck terror into the hearts of anyone who saw it. On the other side, Mecca was virtually empty of defenses. Its citizens were incredibly vulnerable, with zero military power to repel an invasion like this. I mean, on paper, it was a physical impossibility for Mecca to survive. It was already over. But then, the leader of Mecca, Hazrat Abdul-Muttalib, walks right into Abraha's camp. Here is a man without an army, facing a king who holds absolutely all the cards, and he demands the return of his seized camels. Now, Abraha is completely stunned by this. He looks at the Meccan leader in pure arrogant confusion. He basically says, "Wait, you ask for your camels, but not for the house I have come to destroy?" He simply cannot fathom how this man is worried about livestock, while his most sacred sanctuary is about to be leveled. In response, Hazrat Abdul-Muttalib delivers what is arguably one of the most legendary, faith-affirming statements in human history. He says, "I am the owner of these camels, and this house has a Lord who will protect it." Just pause and think about the immense gravity of those words for a second. Standing in the literal shadow of a war elephant and thousands of heavily armed men, he demonstrates unwavering, absolute faith. He takes his camels and he simply walks away, leaving the defense of the Kaaba entirely to the heavens. Now for Chapter 4, The Miracle of the Ababeel. The climax of this historical event peaks right as Hazrat Abdul-Muttalib returns to the city and immediately orders a full evacuation, while Abraha aggressively signals his massive army to advance. It's a truly cinematic moment. The vulnerable Meccans are fleeing to the safety of the surrounding mountains, basically watching helplessly from the high peaks. Down below, Abraha's army is pushing forward, totally confident in their impending victory. But suddenly, the sky dramatically darkens. And it's not a sandstorm. Mysterious flocks of birds appear on the horizon, swarming in from the direction of the sea. These were the Ababeel, miraculous flocks of birds sent directly by divine command. And you guys, they came armed. In their beaks and in their claws, they carried tiny pebbles of hard-baked clay and stone. This is where divine justice so brilliantly overrides human arrogance. The birds unleash a devastating aerial bombardment, just pelting the heavily armed soldiers down below. In Chapter 5, Surah Al-Fil, we see the aftermath. The sheer scale of this event left an indelible mark on history. It was so incredibly profound that it was actually immortalized in the Quran, in Surah Al-Fil, which translates to the chapter of the elephant. And the imagery used in the text is just striking and honestly terrifyingly absolute. It asks, did he not make their plan into ruin and send against them flocks of birds, making them like eaten straw? That beautifully captures the sheer devastation. This mighty, seemingly invincible army wasn't just defeated, they were completely crushed, decimated, left scattered like animal-eaten chaff. The ultimate overarching power of a massive human empire was completely erased by something as small as pebbles carried by birds. Which brings us to Chapter 6, From Darkness to Light. The event of the elephant left the entire Arabian Peninsula in absolute awe. It proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the Kaaba had divine protection. But while the physical structure of the Kaaba was saved, the society surrounding it was actually still in a deeply tragic state. You see, this was the era of Jahiliyyah, or ignorance. And here's the paradox. Yes, a deep awe was established regarding the Kaaba's protection, yet at the exact same time, society remained plunged in this terrible moral darkness. The very people who witnessed this incredible miracle were still actively engaged in rampant idol worship right inside that same Kaaba. And worse still, society was plagued by horrific injustices, like the brutal practice of burying infant daughters alive. So the physical miracle had occurred, sure, but the spiritual and moral darkness remained profound. This was a society in desperate need of a savior. So, the stage was officially set. The miracle had shown the absolute power of the divine, but the hearts of the people still needed a massive revolution, which leaves us with one massive question. Who would bring this society out of such terrifying darkness and into the light? To find the answer to that monumental question, you're going to need to stick around. Make sure to subscribe to our channel right now so you don't miss our next explainer, where we'll be exploring how the greatest leader in history emerged to bring brilliant light to this extremely dark era. Thank you so much for exploring this incredible historical event with me, and I will catch you in the next one.